Right, we're talking words next. Research suggests that language is becoming simpler. We're using more abbreviations, we're using more slang, replacing a number of what we're describing expressive words.
And some Brits think this is a load of codswallop and say old-fashioned words need to make a comeback. I have a feeling one of those Brits is the author and broadcaster Gyles Brandreth, who joins us now. Gyles, very good to see you. Welcome to Mornings.
Can I say it's so good to see both of you. I love you both. And I'm particularly excited to see you, Wilf, because you won't remember this, but in August 1985, I was working with your dad. And when you were born, he was so thrilled that 24 hours later, after your birth, I gave him a little miniature jumper with Wilfred on the front. And he said, we're not going to call him Wilfred, we're going to call him Fred. But now you've ended up as Wilf. So there you are. That's going back 40 years, I think. You don't.
Wow.
Amazing.
I mean, we know each other from afar. You know Mum and Dad very well, but I've never heard that, and that's wonderful to hear. I have to say, I'm pleased they never did call me Fred.
I want to pick up on this. Was there a bit of a battle over how your name, like Wilf, Fred?
Well, I was pretty young, so I don't think it was decided for me. But no, I've always been Wilf or Wilfred. Gyles, that's
72 hours after his birth. Anyway, that's beside the point. But you are right. I am so, I'm perplexed, but flummoxed almost. I mean, I'm gobsmacked that I'm here with you today on such a big news day to talk about language. But this has all come about because of this Tesco mobile survey showing that young people actually are quite interested in using old words because they think they're rather fun. You mentioned codswallop there. Codswallop is an old word that's coming back into fashion, apparently. Do you know the origin of codswallop? Do you know it?
I don't, but I am sure you do.
I wouldn't have brought it up if I didn't. I do. There was a man who manufactured bottles called cod, and wallop was a kind of beer. So in the beer, there was this wallop beer in the cod's bottles, and it tasted revolting. It was codswallop. It was awful. Codswallop, that's rubbish. Hence codswallop. Now, what young people are doing are being amused by this word, not knowing its origin or meaning, and they're abbreviating it to cods. So they're saying, oh, that cods. So I think this is fun because language is power. We've got all these brilliant old words, like flabbergasted, which became fashionable again after an episode of The Traitors, when it was used by one of the people there. So these lovely old words are coming back, and I think it's fantastic because they roll off the tongue.
We've got loads of viewer emails talking about the words that they love, which is great. Nincompoop, what a word that is. That's a good one, nincompoop, isn't it? I really like that one. Snollygoster, apparently, which means, I'm told, an unscrupulous politician.
Have you heard of snollygoster before?
I've come across the word because I'm a friend of Susie Dent, and she introduced it to me some years ago with reference to a politician. But as you say, it's been around since the 18th century. Nincompoop has been around since Shakespeare's day. Some of these words go back hundreds of years. And it's the reason that ours is the richest language in the world. 500,000 words in our dictionary. The poor French. The poor beleaguered French only have 100,000 words in their dictionary.
Oh, dear.
Those words include le weekend, le snack bar. I mean, honestly.
You've given me I just thought of this because, every year we always cover the new words added to dictionaries. Does that annoy you when you see that because it's sort of too colloquial, too quick, or are you a welcomer of all words?
As the great Emerson said, the English language is a mighty river into which so many tributaries flow. And I love new words, old words, and I love the things that people are doing with words. Young people, apparently, are now into hanky-panky. Now, in my day, hanky-panky was a bit of how's your father? I don't know that they knew what it originally meant. Hanky-panky was a Victorian word, and you talked about a magician. And on stage, and he was getting up to some hanky-panky. Well, now it means something quite different. But the youngsters, according to this survey, they're making a version of this hanksy-panksy. So instead of sending, when Valentine's Day comes around, an emoji of an aubergine with its tongue hanging out, you send a nice text saying, fancy hanksy-panksy?
Oh, my goodness.
So are you, Gyles, are you a big on emoji use as well?
Not the aubergine. Let's not talk about that one.
It's all in the eye of the beholder. This is all innocent stuff. The joy of language, and we're illustrating it now, is the fun you can have with it. We have this rich language, and I'm thrilled that young people are saying to one another, we won't go for a walk this afternoon, let's go gallivanting. I just love the idea. And so I'm thrilled. Old words, new words, they're fun. I mean, let's just enjoy our language, the richest language in the world.
I was going to squeeze in a political question, if I may, because obviously you are a former MP, you know Parliament, you've been around Westminster. What do you make of what we're seeing in the House of Commons at the minute? I mean, Keir Starmer obviously under an awful lot of pressure.
Are there too many snollygosters these days compared to your days? Serious question there, though.
Serious question. The truth is there have always been snollygosters. I mean, you go back to Victorian times when I was young. I remember your dad, Wilf, interviewing Reginald Maudling, who was a Conservative Chancellor of the Exchequer who had to resign because of apparently taking some sort of backhanders from somebody who was dubious. So there's nothing new in this. But what's depressing about it? I have a daughter who's a member of Parliament, and she is, she's her mother's daughter, a totally decent person. Most of the MPs I know are committed to public service. You'll know this, Sophie. Most of them are good men and women, really understand their constituencies and want to do well in public service. It so depresses them. The reason for the level of distress and anger across all parties in the Commons at the moment is they think this is another nail in the coffin of how people think about politicians in general. They aren't all like that. That's the good news, but on days like this, it's very difficult to convince people.
Gyles, I know you interviewed Keir Starmer on your podcast, Rosebud, a sort of long form about him, about his upbringing, about his principles, not about the daily Westminster kind of policy stuff. What did you make of that? Is he in it for all the right reasons? Is he a committed politician?
If you listen to it, you will be impressed by his personal story, by his feelings about his parents, and about his serious commitment to public good. But what was very clear to me from that conversation was he wanted to be liked. He really needed to be liked and loved. It may be something to do with his parents, I don't know. But that was an important element of the conversation. I said it immediately afterwards. And that has been his difficulty, needing to be liked and loved throughout. So agreeing to do things and then having to change his mind. That's been his problem. But basically, I'm sure, a decent man.
As we wrap up, Gyles, do you have a favourite word of all time, or is there just too many wonderful ones out there?
Well, I'm quite fond of poppycock. It's a word that my wife is using quite regularly in the kitchen. It's a word that actually is Dutch in origin. Pepperkak means soft dung in Dutch. It went first to America and then came back to England. So my wife says to me, oh, God, you've been on the television again. Yet more poppycock, Gyles. Oh, dear. So that's my...
She's going to be saying it again after this interview, I'm sure. It's been great to have you with us.
Rest assured, she's hiding behind the sofa with the sound turned down.
Yeah, I think she'll probably, the accurate thing for her to say would be, gosh, those presenters are full of poppycock. But you, Gyles, were full of a plethora of flowing words. I couldn't think of it. He's too eloquent. It's impossible to try and...
It's also been lovely to go down memory lane with you because I really loved your parents. Great people.
Well, they loved you, Gyles, and I've got to dig out my old jumper.
I'm going to start calling you Fred.
Well, I don't think that's a good idea. I don't like that. Anyway,
good to see you,
Gyles, thank you so much for joining us.
I'm a skedaddle now.
Fantastic.
I love it.